Hello everyone, I'm delighted to welcome you this morning to our annual webinar dedicated to the 2025 new wheat crop. My name is Delphine Morla. I'm category manager for the bakery market at Limagrain Ingredients, and I'm very pleased to be your host for this session alongside Catherine Barge and Lucille Dubost. Catherine Barge, Integrated Chain and Purchasing Director at Limagrain Ingredients. She's also an expert in wheat and corn sourcing and a board member of the National Association of French Millers. Catherine succeeds Claude Gagnol, who retired this year. We warmly thank Claude for his many contributions. Catherine will share her insights on wheat market trends and the outlook for this campaign. And our second expert is Lucille Dubost, New Product Development and Baking Lab Manager at Limagrain Ingredients. Lucille will present the quality result of this new crop and a recommendation for bread making. To begin, let's take a look at the market essentials and the key factors influencing wheat prices. To help us understand these dynamics, I will now hand over to Catherine.
Thank you, Delphine. Hello, everyone. It's really useful to recall the main factors that influence the market. So, the major criteria are the following. Of course, one of the most important is the ratio stock consumption. We will have a look together this criteria. We have also euro-dollar parity and also local currencies. Of course, wheat and corn acreage and crop volume are really important. The consumption intended for animal feed, and of course, the geopolitical context could affect growth or recession perspective. We have other possible additional parameters as the impact of other cereal crops like rice, soy, or sunflower. We have this year probably some retention of farmers. We have also available quality for wheat, and of course, the weather market. We have also to look at the worldwide commodities market, and we have also some unestimated data. The production and the consumption and stock in China remains hard to predict. So, naturally, as you know, geopolitical issues can destabilize the market. We can mention the war in Ukraine, adapted to the, but as we can observe now, this situation is now under control because we could have still an impact of supply chain due to this conflict. We can also mention the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which notably affects energy prices. We have also tensions between France and Algeria, limiting our export capacity. Algeria was our client a few years ago, but no French wheat will be exported to Algeria this year. So currently, it's mainly also the economic war context that is impacted the market. This creates uncertainty around import and export flows due to customs duty. It also contributes to a weak dollar, and for us Europeans, the euro-dollar exchange rate is currently unfavorable for cereal exports. So, at present, geopolitical factors have limited impact on the market, and fundamentals seem to be the main driver of price, as we can see after. Let's now look at the fundamentals, particularly global cereal production levels. On this map, you can see crop conditions for major cereals. Red indicates area where crops have faced unfavorable conditions. Blue and green show favorable or even exceptional growing conditions. As you can see, green and blue dominate the map, and only areas around the Black Sea and the United Kingdom are in red. So globally, crop conditions have been good, and wheat and corn are better shape than last year. For wheat, harvest condition was good for winter wheat in Europe and in the US. In Russia, yields vary by region, and in Ukraine, yields are below average. For corn, exceptional yields are expected in Brazil, and conditions are favorable in India and Mexico. Yields should be higher in the US, and conditions are mixed in Russia due to the drought, and similarly in Ukraine. So here you can see the same representation applies to wheat. So again, green is dominant. Expected production levels are good. Upcoming harvests in Australia and Argentina expected in the coming weeks are also forecasted to be strong. So this could also weigh on the market. Now, some key figures. Global cereal production has reached a record 2.4 billion tons this year. Expected corn production is also at a record level, nearly 1.3 billion tons, which will also impact the wheat market. Another element to consider in the stock to use is the stock to use ratio, which stands around 32%, in line with previous years, as you can see. In other terms, global wheat production up to 816 million tons. So, and the global consumption up to 814 million tons. Ending stock up by 2 million. And this marks, in fact, a record year for production, as you can see. And major exporters have never produced so much. So it's really important to take into account this really important production. Given these elements, it's easier to understand why cereal prices have been trending down for several weeks. What is the situation in Europe? What are the European trends for this harvest? The wheat harvest is characterized by an increase in European production, reaching 127.1, and it's a 14.7% rise compared to last campaign. We have a stable domestic wheat use at 103 million. Export volumes are expected to rise, but remain below historical highs. A decline in stock levels estimated at 7.6 million tons. Now, if we focus on France, we are a clear rebound in French production after last year's disastrous campaign. Volume is up 30, but still 4.5% below the 5-year average. Domestic use is slightly up. Export forecasts to third countries are around 8 million, but this remains a real challenge as we lost our historic client, Algeria, due to the tension between our two countries. So we really need to be competitive to sell 8 million of wheat this year, for sure. The projected stock levels remain relatively high. And if we're considering all the fundamentals, we've reviewed together the understanding of price dynamic of wheat. So, as this chart shows, since 2022, we've seen sharp price fluctuation, driven by geopolitical events or major weather disruptions. In recent months, it seems that fundamentals, such as production levels, stock levels, are guiding price movements. In this context of high volumes and intense competition, prices have been following for several months. Look at the recent evolutions. The latest USDA report was released less than 2 days ago, so it's really recent. It announced even higher production levels than those published a month ago, which put prices down by a few euros to euros, something like this, yesterday. So the euro-dollar exchange rate also affects prices. We can consider that it represents this parity 10 to 15 euro on Euronext wheat prices. So it's really important. At current price levels, you have to know that farmers are not covering their production costs. And at these prices, producers are reluctant to sell, leading to wheat retention. For example, by mid-September, it's estimated that farmers had sold only 35 of their production, compared to 55 at the same time last year. So to buy wheat in France, we can consider that market premium of 10 or 15 euro is it's mandatory. So in summary, markets seem to confirm current price levels for the coming weeks, unless major global events occur, would be possible. So the key factors to monitor this year, the bullish factors, as I already said, a risk of farmer retention this year, a potential increase in Chinese consumption, but it remains hard to predict. Of course, we can consider trade tensions, and this tension could also drive prices up. The euro-dollar exchange rate could play a role, of course. However, experts currently expect the exchange rate to remain stable in the coming months. And for bearish factors, we have to consider the strong production in Australia and Argentina. Of course, we have really to consider the record corn production this year. It's really an exceptional year. We have to consider the intense competition from Russian wheat, and probably a weak demand due to economic uncertainty. And also, we have to have a look to euro-dollar exchange rate. So, in conclusion, this is likely to be a year of low prices level, insufficient to ensure fair compensation for producers. And there are limited but real bullish factors. But a global context could change the market also. So, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, for this insightful analysis. I remember you feel free to ask your question in the question tab just at the bottom right corner of your screen. Now, let's turn to another key aspect of this campaign, the quality of the wheat and the flour. So, Lucille, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Delphine. Hello, everyone. So first, I will give you a summary of the varieties cultivated in France. Regarding the wheats in France in 2025, we can look at two things. First, the overall distribution of sowings, and second, the percentage of sowings by variety. The study is based on 99.9% of the total area of France, cultivated with soft wheat. Regarding the overall distribution, the majority of areas are pure sowing. It represents 78.5%. But in recent years, we have seen the emergence of sowings of soft wheat variety mixtures. These are known as intra-specific mixtures. They represent 20.1% of the sowings. There are also interspecific sowings, which cover 1.4% of the area. Wheat is then combined with faba beans and or trefoil. If we move to the table on the right, which lists the top 10 wheat varieties grown in France, we see that this top 10 represents 40.7% of the acreage compared to 43.6% in 2024. We still see a great deal of varietal diversity. All these varieties are registered as milling wheats. The Chevignot variety is still number 1 in France, but the acreage is down 4.2% compared to 2024. The consistency of its yields and quality make it a highly valued variety both in agriculture and in bread making. Intensity variety enters the top 10 directly in second place at the expense of KWS Extase, which drops to 9th place. Prestance and Léger Absalon varieties remain in 3rd and 4th place. The second newcomer to the top 10 is the Pont d'Or variety, which moved up to 5th place, while KWS Ultime and Complice drop out of this ranking. Celebrity variety has dropped 5 places in the ranking. As expected, its disease profile had a significant impact on the variety during the previous harvest, causing it to fall back. We will now focus on the 2 new varieties, Intensity and Pont d'Or. Intensity is a BPS in French ranking. It means superior grade wheat, a variety recommended by the milling industry. It generally has good yields at harvest and consistent grain-making characteristics. In the kneading mill, we will find a rather elastic dough, and the crumb of the finished product will be creamy to yellow. The Pont d'Or variety is also recommended by the milling industry. This variety has excellent yield potential in the field and very good milling qualities. At kneading step, this variety will produce a balanced to elastic dough. The resulting loaves have a good to very good volume. The crumb is yellow. So this new graph shows the distribution of the different wheat categories cultivated in France since 2016. We see that wheats for bread making are the majority, representing more than 88% of the French wheat crop this year. The share of wheat recommended by French milling wheats is becoming increasingly important to the detriment of other standard wheat. This translates into varieties that are increasingly high in quality. High-protein wheats, which are found mainly in the southern part of France, cover 5.6% of the national area. Their national share has been increasing over the past 5 years. The share of biscuit wheat acreage is estimated at 0.6% and is still decreasing, which is creating challenges for the biscuit industry in France. Arkeos still retains the majority share of the French market, occupying 0.73% of the area. There is still a lack of varietal diversity on the market, which increases the supply risk for this type of wheat. Wheat for other uses represents 1.9% of the total soft wheat crop. slightly higher than in 2024. Finally, the area cultivated with wheats of unknown use is 3.4%. Regarding these wheats of unknown use, the definition was changed in 2021. Before this date, the unknown wheat category contained pure varieties of unknown use, plus intra-specific mixtures, plus interspecific mixtures. Since 2021, intra-specific mixtures have been removed from this category and represent a separate category. These are the bread mixtures represented in the graph by the dark blue color. So now a focus on high protein wheat. The generic term high protein wheat covers two types of wheat. First, the strong wheat, which has a naturally high protein content and baking strength of alveograph analysis. The main requirements for French milling are a protein content higher than 14% and baking potential superior to 350 at alveograph analysis. Improver wheat, on the other hand, is a strong wheat that has been shown to improve certain bread-making characteristics. We still use high-protein wheat in milling mixes to improve bread-making characteristics and also adapt the milling mixes according to the final application. We observe that the three main high-protein wheat varieties are almost at the same level. Forcalli, with its soft profile, moved up to number 1, ahead of Ilzalco, which have a stiff soft profile, and Rebelde, which have a strong stiff profile. It's worth noting the arrival of more flexible high protein wheats like KWS Forticium, Constellum, and Agriac in the top 10, which will help balance out overly thaw and torn lows. So now we will have a look to the quality of wheat and flour from the 2025 harvest. So all the graphs represented show the result for wheat entering in collection silos. About the average protein content, this year it is around 11.3%. This protein content is satisfactory and close to that of 2024, which was 11.4%. However, the graph shows a decrease in wheat volumes with a protein content higher than 11.5%. From 2020 to 2024, 66% of wheat had a protein content superior to 11.5%. In 2025, this figure is only 31%, compared to 41% in 2024. Also, the average protein content remains acceptable. Overall, there is a significant decrease in wheat with a protein content higher than 11.5% and above all superior to 12%. 8% of wheat in 2025 contains more than 12% of protein compared to 19% in 2024. The majority of wheats have a protein content between 11 and 11.5%, as in 2024, while in previous years, this majority was between 11.5 and 12%. For this harvest, milling blends will therefore need to be adapted to achieve the protein levels of flour specifications. For some applications, it will be beneficial to increase the use of high protein wheat in the blends at the expense of standard wheat. I'd like to digress a bit regarding Limagne, area of Limagrain cooperative in center of France. Indeed, protein levels in this area have increased by 0.6 to 0.8%, depending on the variety. The wheat models have therefore been developed according to these local characteristics. So now let's talk about specific weights, which are good in France this year. While in 2024, 28% of the harvest had a specific weight superior to 76 kilograms per hectoliter, in 2025, this will be 94% of the wheat. Sorting and cleaning operations by collectors and at the mill entrance will not be necessary this year in relation to this criteria. These results will allow for an improvement in milling yields and lighter crumbs compared to 2024. These results are linked to the very good sunshine at the time of grain filling, and this across the entire territory. Another characteristic linked to sunshine and heat is the moisture content of the wheat grains, which this year are dry compared to previous years. Nearly 50% of wheat have a moisture content less than 12.5%, while the average was 13.6% in 2024. The mill could adjust the water content during the waiting stage to optimally hold the grain. Falling times are very good this year. 90% of the harvested wheat has an index superior to 300 seconds. In some areas in France, there may be a fairly high disease pressure related to ergot, which leads to downgrading of wheat upon entry to storage facilities. Analytical controls may be implemented to isolate silos that are not suitable for human and animal consumption. That brings me to briefly discuss ergot, sclerotia, and alkaloids. I will just share a few words from a paper written by Arvalis in France, which is a national organization attached to the Ministry of Agriculture in France. So the first point about ergot. So consumed in excessive quantities, ergot alkaloids are toxic to humans and animals. They can cause chronic or acute toxicity. Even at low doses, they can have health effects. It is therefore important to monitor ergot alkaloid levels in order to comply with current regulation and ensure consumer health. Second thing to know, ergot is a fungus that overwinters in the soil. It develops in the spring and can cause double contamination. In July, it develops on the ears of wheat instead of the grain. Another point about ergot is that during the milling process, 25% of the alkaloids disappear from the flour, but can be found in high concentration in byproducts such as bran and germ. Using flour in bread making can also reduce the alkaloid concentration by 60%. Even if the level is significantly reduced during the processing, they are not completely eliminated. Therefore, there is still a risk for consumers and animals. The last point is about the way to reduce contamination by this fungus. An effective lever is changing soil cultivation after harvest. For example, year one, doing a deep plowing to bury the sclerotia, and years 2 and 3, work only on surface TH. Crop rotation can also be practiced by choosing plants that do not host this fungus, like oilseed plants, corn, beetroot. There are also other plants. So as said before, these explanations are taken from a document produced by Arvalis. As I'm not an expert on the subject, if you would like to learn more, I invite you to ask questions in the chat, and we will forward them to more experienced people so they can answer to your questions. So to conclude on the overall quality of wheat, it's a combination of protein content, specific weight, falling time, and alveograph values. In 2025, 64% of wheat will be classified as premium and superior quality, compared to only 19% in 2024. We are therefore returning to standard values, standard quality. However, it should be noted that while from 2019 to 2023, we had a fairly balanced distribution of premium, superior, and medium wheat, respectively 28%, 34%, and 30%. In 2025, we see a decrease in premium quality to 17%. This results from the impact of the decrease in this results from the impact of the protein content on the final quality of wheat, despite good results on other criteria like specific weight and agar. This deviation in wheat classification will not cause major difficulties in the formulations of the blends used for flour production. Let's now turn to the quality of the 2025 flours. So the millings used for the analysis and the bakery test were carried out on a Buller mini mill. The wheat came from Limagne as well as from various French collection sites. The bread making tests were conducted according to the BPA test. So at first, we'll see the impacts of wheat quality on analytical values. At alveograph analysis, a lower baking strength was noted in 2025, while 2/3 of the 2024 harvest had a W superior to 170. This year, it was only 51%. The elasticity indexes are stable and fairly balanced compared to last year. The PL and the L, it is the ratio between tenacity and extensibility, are high to very high. While in the previous 5 years, 13% of the wheat had a P and a L higher than 1, this year it is 52%. For certain applications requiring extensibility, such as croissants or roll-out laminated doughs, pasta, it will sometimes be difficult to accurately meet the maximum P and L value of flour specification. It will be necessary to work on wheat blends to incorporate more extensible wheats or to work on recipes and industrial processes to overcome the defects of the CS flour. Sorry. We have carried out farinograph analysis on wheat harvested in Auvergne, in Limagne. The hydration gain is 2 to 3 points higher. First, we find hydration levels equivalent to those of 2023 for both standard and high protein. With farinograph analysis, dose stability is correct and better than in 2024. While dough hydration is quite adequate this year in certain areas, such as Auvergne, special mention may be required for flours containing a significant proportion of standard wheat, requiring external supplies. Indeed, given the protein content which can vary from one harvest location to another, the wheat must be blended in such a way as to stabilize the flour quality throughout the year. Let's see now the impacts of wheat variety on bread making. As we anticipated with the farinograph analysis, we noted a gain in dough hydration in the mixer, ranging from 1% to 3%, depending on the wheat varieties. Smoothing is rapid this year we obtain those that are elastic during mixing step, but fairly balanced in elasticity and extensibility during at shaping step. Tearing may occur depending on the region of the wheat. We noted good stability during baking and correct development of loaf. The oven springs are well developed. The crusts are lighter, the crumbs tend to be creamier, even more yellow for some varieties. These values correlate fairly well with the analytical results. To finish, some recommendations. For this year, to optimize the flours, we recommend to optimize the cleaning time rather than walls, as smoothing is faster. Strong wheat and gluten are useful for balancing weak doughs, and to replace your gluten additions, you can consider glu-safe solutions. For frozen baguette and part-baked breads, there is no need to add extensing agent, despite the high ratio between tenacity and extensibility, as the dough balances between the end of kneading and shaping. As the volumes are good this year, the amount of alpha amylase could possibly be adjusted downwards in the correctors and improver.
Thank you very much, Lucille, for this all this detailed information. So now let's move on to the Q&A session, and we have a first question for Catherine. Catherine, at the beginning of your presentation, you talk about the Weber market. So could you explain us what is it?
Yes, of course. The Weber market refers, in fact, to a period when cereal prices are mainly driven by weather conditions. Drought, rainfall, or frost can affect production forecasts and can cause price fluctuations.
Okay, thank you for the answer. We have another question for you, Catherine. Do we know if this year wheat crop will be adversely affected by alkaloid toxins?
Oh, it's difficult to say at this stage. National data on ergot present are not yet available, but we don't know really the situation in France. It should be published at the end of October, but we already know that the presence of this contaminant will certainly increase in the coming years, sure, due to growing conditions, climatic conditions, of course, and less effective pesticides for this wheat crop.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. One last question for you, Lucille. You talked about the protein levels. Could you explain us why in Limagne the protein level is higher than compared other regions?
So it is due to the specific climate, specific weather that we have here in Limagne area. And also it is due to the unique terroir of the area of Limagne. The soil are very rich and really adapted to a high protein content in wheat.
Okay, thanks a lot. So now we have reached the end of our webinar. So thank you to all of you for your presence and attention throughout this session. We hope this morning discussion and shared insights have provided valuable perspective on the key challenges and opportunities of this campaign. But just before we wrap up, a quick word about our next event. Our new maize crop 2025 will take place on November the 13th at 10:30. The session will be in English, so feel free to scan the QR code displayed on your screen right now to register. Thank you to all of you. Have a good day and see you soon.